I'm gonna try and focus on Ashe and McCree, I think. Oh no, here's a game. Nice. Just lock in Ashe. I always feel bad about being the first one to select, but I think in this case I just want to be Ashe or McCree, so I don't want to.
Yeah, as long as you're not picking a like a garbage hero, I don't think that there's really a problem with
Yeah,
insta locking.
Tool. But actually, I like Tool, but not an attack, unless it's a payload, I guess.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
Look at all the snow. We should make snow angels. Why are you looking at me, Snake?
So what are we working with? We have a hog, Orisa. So what we can do is try to combo with Orisa pulse. So when we see Orisa going with pulse, we can go for dynamites. That is a very easy way to land dynamites. Ana, Mercy. So if Mercy's pocketing us, we can remember that we have that one shot potential for headshots.
Okay.
And then our comp in general wants to play kind of spammy, kind of brawly, but like kind of slightly in the middle. Mostly spam. If we can res that, that means we're up one.
What the fuck are you doing? My bad.
Don't know why Mercy's not resing.
Change setting real quick. Hold them off.
Okay, so we've scouted and they have no shields. They have an Hog and a Zarya, so we can free farm, especially if we're just sitting behind our shield. We actually won't need to flank much because they don't have anything to, like, we don't need to get past any shields or anything like that.
I can't see the soldier. There he is. I knew he was up there somewhere. Oh, good.
You need to kill Zarya. I got it, man. I was standing right next to her on it. See? Wait. Oh shit.
Okay, so the purpose of a flank is to get past tanks. If they have very garbage tank lineups like the Hog and the Zarya, that means that we can play a lot more in the front line and less kind of on flank angles, where it'll be a lot safer for you. And you can still get a ton done because they don't have shields that you need to try to get past. You can just free farm from the front line. So maybe try to stick with your tanks a little bit more.
Okay.
Remember, this is just all about adapting how we're playing based off of what they're playing.
We have a Mei.
Okay.
Pulling.
Make sure you're requesting healing when you're low.
Courtesy of the deadlock.
Okay, good kills.
Thanks.
Good Bob to open you up there too.
Just wish I had more bullets.
Pulling.
Don't know. He needs to reset. Check. Maybe I can get some picks.
Right on center.
Yeah, so even if you get picks in a situation like that, since you had people who just died, you'd have to kill basically their whole team for it to be worth it, since they have spawns that are right there. So picks don't really matter in that situation because your team is still super hard behind you. And then what happened
good
because you
point.
stayed in was because you then that caused you to stagger.
Yeah, actually, you're right. See if May's put a wall down. Okay, he's used the lamp.
What?
Yeah. I think she was holding the wall.
Pulling the hawk. Zarya sleeping behind. No personal.
Nothing wrong with a little self-improvement.
Get back. This would help.
Farah's got her ult nearly.
Everybody come over here. Healing
I hate CCP. We're killing everything. We're just respawning.
Saya slow.
She's back to full.
Saya slow.
much better.
While we are waiting, I make you fight.
Alright, so seems like we're struggling a little to crack this. I think the biggest way that like your team can do this is with like a lot of ults all at once. Of course we've tried that before, but we can try it again. When you're using Bob rather than sending him the back left corner where he can get easily focused, attempt to get him kind of behind the enemy team. That causes a crossfire to happen. You're always trying to get a crossfire going with your Bobs. So potentially you can go where where you saw that BAP at, and that'd be a really good position.
Gosh, need to back off again.
Yeah, so when you push in, if you can get above them to that kind of little platform and then walk above them, then that's a super easy dynamite. You can throw Bob from there. Just think a little bit more about how you can actually shoot at them, because if, of course, it's all well and good to stay with your tanks, but if you can't actually see any of the enemy team to shoot at, then you need to get in line of sight of them.
Yeah.
I got you. Oh my god.
There's one, there's one.
Okay, there, Bob positioning is slightly off. It's not our fault that we got grabbed. Okay, we it finally capped, so that's good. So yeah, the main thing there on your part was that through a lot of the fights we weren't really putting ourselves in positions to actually see anything but the tanks. So when earlier when I was talking about staying more with your front line, that's only going to apply if you can actually see their team. Now, if they're all hiding behind the corner, you might need to leave your team to actually go and actually get an angle out on them and shoot their squishy targets. Because if you're just trying to pump damage into a Roadhog and a Zarya the entire time, you're not going to get as much value done. As much value out of that.
Ryan, are you
Yeah.
using barriers at all? Because I've had barriers up like the entire game.
Yeah, it makes sense. On the crossfire point, I'm not sure I understood it properly,
So-
actually, because when I threw the Bob, I was trying to put it behind them to get that crossfire, which is why I aimed it through the gateway, but
So
I guess that wasn't right.
the problem with that is that it's limiting Bob's line of view to where it's only he's only gonna be able to shoot something directly in the center of point, and that's very limiting to what he can actually shoot at. Preferably, I was thinking with the crossfire was putting it behind them on the right side, so their whole team is positioned on the right side. And if we could get Bob behind them over there, then that means that they either have to turn around and look at Bob or look at your team.
Like, why always making my
And then if some of them are hesitating, then Bob takes longer to kill. And then overall, it just gets a ton of damage in when you're crossfiring like that.
Yeah, 'cause
I see.
cover an area.
But we were always throwing Bob on the left, which meant that he was just he's getting zoned off by May walls. They were able to like kind of melt him from very far away safely.
where?
I get the idea.
Okay, so they have a Samuro who can't touch us on the high ground. A Zarya who can't touch us on the high ground. We have to watch for Genji who can dash up to us, and a Hawk who can hook us are the main two that we have to worry about.
Genji's high ground. Top left.
Can hear Genji, but can't see him.
He's just farming off of the mega.
Damage control. Point me in the right.
Oh, that's window. I get
If
the
you
light.
can, always try to lead with that dynamite on the Genji. Puts an incredible amount of pressure on him and makes the duel on him a lot easier to win.
Stop last time.
She was one and she tried to
Oops.
clear.
Oh, yep.
Swung her.
This happening earlier. Just really pay attention to the direction of your coach gun. We'll briefly go over that in between rounds here.
I had shatter.
Hold on.
Deactivated.
Okay. Rather than dropping off the high ground, maybe we could have coach gunned him, which would have meant that he would go backwards. You can throw dynamite at him really easily, and then that would push him off the Mercy as well, because we decided to just drop rather than coach gun. That meant
Yeah.
that he was able to stay on top of our Mercy. So the coach gun disorientates him and pushes him away, which he wants to be at a close range to you.
I just did the same thing. Oh no, sorry.
Just you have the right idea to get away from the coach gun, but just shoot him with it, and then that both pushes you back and pushes him back. So that gets you
Yeah.
extra distance with it.
Plus there's Zarya. Hop off for it.
Guess it's B.
Now, if we know that they're coming in for a Nano Blade, we might not want to position as close on the middle high ground, because that makes us a very easy Nano Blade target to go for.
I get the idea.
Instead, when we know that they're coming in for big ultimates, we might want to play a little bit more safe and back up.
Actually, yeah, Zarya's got her ult. She's gonna look to grab soon, I guess. Ah,
Hey, now. Why you keeping them? Go.
Use the EMP. Use the EMP.
EMP activated.
Genji low.
Alright, so two big things that fight. First off, make sure that you're positioning on the high ground before the fight happens. In between fights, you always are going to want to position on the high grounds in the best positions possible. So make sure you're there already instead of doing that in the middle of the fight. Second off, was the fact that the entire fight we focused on tanks. Make sure that we're not always shooting the Hog and the Zarya, but we're looking to get to squishy targets.
Okay.
Tanks exist to draw attention and to keep the supports and DPS alive, because the supports and DPS are the ones who are actually doing the work. The tanks are just the ones who keep them alive.
Oh, these them with
If you have the option to get past them, then you always try to get past them.
Get out of window, don't. It's right up there. He's coming back to shadow.
Okay, so 2 things there. Or 1 thing, actually. A really good job with the recovery after your Bob got messed up. Good kills. Make sure you're not dropping from high ground. You still had a tick and a half to go. It's not worth sacrificing your life, especially if somebody else can touch. Don't try to drop to touch it unless it's like half a tick away from capping, because it's not worth it. Because that's risking losing the fight just to save a tick, which ultimately doesn't matter. You're playing to win the round, not win the tick war. You already have the point.
Augment hook.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about that 1 single tick. Worry about the round, okay? Because if you die, that's not very good for your team.
Cover in and hug.
I'm pushing him.
Yeah, nice.
60 seconds remaining.
I'll heal you later. Run them all.
Nice one, Ryan.
I was trying to kill the high charge area.
In this case, should I push? Oh
No.
no, they're coming back anyway.
No,
Okay.
if your team pushed way past the choke, then yes, but not in that situation. Make sure positioning a little bit more to the left, because when they come on the point, you're probably going to want to position on the left side, high ground. Good dynamite. Make sure we're paying attention. We have to our ults. We have Bob here.
There, you know, personal. Hug on the left.
Probably put that on one of the back walls when they're walking in. As soon as
Like
we-
this?
No, one of the further back ones, probably.
Oh, this, like
Yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah, exactly. Because then that means that Bob's shooting them in the back while they're trying to run on the point.
Just low.
Oh, unfortunate.
On right side.
Better.
Nice.
Where did they go?
We killed them all.
Okay, that's good.
Good game.
I'm always nervous to leave early in case it doesn't. This is fine now.
So
I guess.
yeah, if it doesn't, so it'll give you a message. It'll be like a big red screen. It'll say like, if you leave now, you'll get a penalty or 75% XP reduction. If it does not say that, it just says leave game, then you're good to leave game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, give me a moment. I'm gonna.
Oh, did you want to show me?
Yeah, I'm opening up Overwatch right now. I didn't have it open.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go to Discord then. Do I stop streaming and then
You don't
look
have
at
to
yours?
sub streaming. You can click if your screen just shows your stream, click on it, and then you'll be able to see mine.
Ah, cool. Okay. Yeah, I can see yours now. Yeah.
Now, another question was, do you have any clue what I was gonna go over? What did I say when I was going over that?
My rules.
It was Coach
Coach
Gun.
Gun.
Yeah, Coach Gun. So, with your Coach Gun, just think of it like you're going in the opposite direction of where your screen's moving. So if we're looking straight forwards, we're gonna go backwards. Okay, we're looking straight backwards. Or sorry, we like turn around and look backwards. Then we're gonna go backwards. Okay, we're looking straight down. We go straight up. Okay, and then we can also control with our movement as well. So keep in mind that we can actually decide to go forwards and hold backwards at this. Sorry, if we like Coach Gun backwards here and hold backwards at the same time, we'll go further. Okay, and we can also add in a jump there. Then if we decide to hold forwards while we Coach Gun, because it will counteract our momentum. So if we hold forwards while we Coach Gun, okay, we don't go nearly as far. It was like there versus here.
I see.
There versus there. So keep that in mind. So when we're trying to get to like a middle high ground like this, if we look, we can either do that in two ways. We can look straight down and then just walk forwards, okay, and then that gets us like this, okay, or probably a little bit more effectively or more accurately, because we can control our movement a little bit better, is looking diagonally backwards. So if we look, we're looking at an angle here because we know we'll go in the opposite angle. Oh, that was not very well.
No worries.
Very good. But yeah, if we look at diagonally, we'll go in kind of the opposite angle of that. So, and then that way we don't hit the lip there. So, just keep that in mind when you're trying to go for coach guns, that you're just gonna basically be going in the opposite direction of where you're looking. And so we're looking to go up, so we're just quickly flicking up straight at the ground so that we can go straight up. Up is a very basic one that's gonna be very easy to do, and you just like look straight down when you're trying to do that. Now if you're trying to control it a little bit more, and maybe so that you're not hitting that top lip, then you can look diagonally, and then now you're getting a little bit less of an up impact.
Okay.
Okay, trying to think. Don't know if there's much else to go about over here, but we'll talk about Bob usage for a second. We'll get Bob up online. Okay, so we have Bob. So whenever we're fighting, let's say that our team is walking through this choke here. Okay, so our team's walking up here, and then the enemy team's like, it's just the bots over here. So we have 4 bots over here. If we're walking forwards, and we throw Bob, let's say we throw Bob like here into this pillar, okay, that means that Bob's in front of them, and that means that they can, while still like kind of keeping us at bay by shooting in our direction, look and kill Bob super easily. Whereas if we throw Bob maybe in the back corner there, okay, this means that Bob's shooting at all of them from behind, and if we run in at them from front angle, then they have to choose, do we turn around and shoot at Bob, or do we shoot at the 5 or 6 people running straight at us? And if they choose one or the other, then that means the other has free reign. So if they all turn around to shoot at Bob, that means that all of us can run in for free, and we do a ton of damage at them from behind. And if they all look at us, because that's probably the better thing to do in that situation, then that means that Bob gets a ton of free value from behind. So you're going to be getting a lot more value with Bob if you're trying to create a crossfire. So you're trying to get him behind the enemy team, preferably. Now, that also is going to mean that sometimes you're going to try to get it so that you're not hitting anybody with Bob, because if we hit somebody with Bob like right here, then Bob's not going to go very far, and then he just ends up in the front.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that Bob is well timed, because if you throw him in too early, then that gives them time to even if it's behind them, it gives them time to melt him and then turn on you. If you throw him in too late, then they melt you and then turn on Bob. So you just have to make sure that the timing's kind of right as we're running in.
Okay, that helps, actually. Yeah, so I just need to try and visualize maps and where I can create these crossfire moments.
I stick up
Yep,
for
so
my
we
crew.
just like, real quick, we just like look in there. Bob goes in that corner. So now Bob's shooting at them all from behind. And then we get free reign from the front angle, on frontal angle here.
Take it easy.
Also, real quick map bug here. You can see it through the floor. Yeah,
Alright.
this is what you go to the Woogie coaching to get. So you actually should kill the bot through here, but
I think I'm going back into a game now.
alright.
Can you see?
After I kill the bot, alright. Exiting it. Yep, I can see.
Gosh, Rialto's quite a good one for Widow, but I think I'll stick with Ashe for this one.
My business, my rules.
So we've got an Echo to die for Widow, I guess. But then Widow can pretty much pick off an Echo. We'll see what they do.
That's assuming that they have a Widowmaker.
Yeah. we can switch, can't we? So if they have, we can do something.
I am ready to roll.
No, got an Ashe and Genji.
Okay, keep in mind this is playing very far away, which is going to be out, like where we're starting to take a little bit of that damage fall off. Even playing at this range too, you're gonna hit a headshot and it's only gonna do like half damage from here.
Okay.
Yep, much better positioning over here on the high ground. Now they're backing up, so we're probably gonna need to move forward a little bit. So since the high ground's directly above them, that's probably not a high ground I would recommend attempting to take, because it's not going to give you much value, and Genji can very easily contest you from up there. Rather than that, you can probably wrap around to the outside and be very wide, kind of where your Ana was at, and then that gives you large sight lines over the whole point. But if they're all underneath that little bridge, you're not going to get any value from being up there, and again, it's very easy for Genji and Ashe to contest you there.
Hmm.
Okay, make sure we're thinking about our sight lines and our positioning. I think about like 3/4 of that fight we couldn't actually see anything or shoot at
I
anything.
felt useless.
So make sure we're putting ourselves in a position to where we can see things and we can shoot at things. Good dynamite.
Okay. I guess if I put it behind them that way, that might make a nice crossfire here. Ah. I actually heard him. I should have just held it.
So
Stupid.
keep in mind there that when your team has started the fight or when both teams are like kind of poking, you have to be very careful about going on a flank angle like that. Especially like that was already like positioning that your team had control over, right? That little
Yeah.
alleyway didn't get you any value besides putting you outside the fight because your team is already there. So make sure that you're kind of not going outside of the fight if the fight's already started. Okay. Watch for a hero swap here.
Gosh, I feel like I was carried there.
Yep. So, a lot of this game, I'd probably say it's our positioning that's doing us a lot of making it very hard for us to get value. So we're putting ourselves at very, very far off angles, especially on the first point there, and then even a little bit on the third point. We're putting ourselves to where from like our distance from the fight means that we're getting a lot of fall off damage. It's harder to hit shots. Make sure that you're at a kind of closer medium range to the fight than a very far range and not a Widowmaker. On top of that, again, make sure that you can see enemies. You did a lot better on the third point than you did on the second point. But if you're unable to see things to shoot at them, then you're not in a good position. So
Hmm.
stick with your tanks, go up to a high ground where you can see them, and try not to wander while you're in the middle of fights. That's also been a kind of thing that's been happening a little bit, is that in the middle of fights, you'll go and kind of do your own thing for like 5-10 seconds and go on a flank or something like that. And that's not something you want to do in the middle of a fight. That's something you can do in between fights, at the beginning of a fight. But if the fight's starting, you don't want to be out of the fight, because then that means that it's essentially a 5v6 the whole time.
Right.
Okay, that's why in the middle of fights you take what's called off angles. So it's just an angle that you can take that only takes like less than 3 seconds to get there. Good job with their request healing. Okay, so you had some decent positioning because you're not gonna be able to take the high grounds. Just make sure that you're playing using those planters as cover rather than just standing out in the open, and then you're also watching your tanks, because when you're no, when you're not using your own like high ground or your own like corners or any sustainable cover, you need to make sure you're watching your tanks and you're relying on your tanks for cover. And in that situation, we played out in the open, and that got us killed.
You have to watch out for the 1%.
Oh my goodness, how do we live? Yeah, so when you're on a flank like that, make sure they have a ball and a Genji, that we're watching the flank. We're making sure that we're paying attention to and listening for footstep sounds, or watching for the flank angles. We need to be absolutely ready for them to come on us. Be thinking about, okay, where am I gonna be walking to? Where am I gonna be coach gunning to if the Genji dashes at me right now? Am I gonna coach gun backwards, forwards? Am I gonna go drop to my team? Am I gonna try to get to a health pack? You always want to have an escape route in mind so that you're not just getting jumped on and then panicking.
Oh, no. Saw it coming in slow motion.
And you're getting a little bit sloppy with your kind of decision making and your mechanics here. Just make sure that you're kind of given, like, when this type of stuff happens, give yourself a wake up call. Just kind of snap your fingers, and now, like, okay, now we're in the right, we're in kind of the game. Words aren't working. We're in the zone. Okay, we're trying to put ourselves back into where we're playing good, because last game we did play very good, and we're just kind of out of it right now. Make sure that we're not autopiloting through things. Think about the decisions you're making. Don't autopilot things. Try to make sure you're concentrating on it. Okay, so our Bob there was a good example of Bob not getting a whole lot of value, who died very fast. He didn't kill anything, and that's because we kind of just tossed him in front of them all. There again, watch your positioning. Don't just kind of sit on the low ground. If high ground's a very viable option there, because if you go up to the high ground, then you can just kind of shoot them from above, get good dynamites in. Settling for the low ground just makes it very easy to get dove on and killed. Okay, if he hasn't started A, you can probably rotate back up there. Don't peek so early if your whole team's like not there with you.
Okay.
Yeah, because then they got you pressured off and you have to leave.
Nano boost administered. Patched up.
Okay, so again, we just gonna spend another time or another fight where we didn't really see what's going on. During that fight, you had a ton of opportunities where you could have just coach gunned up to top left real quick or walked up top left real quick. Try to stay up on these high guns because these high guns are going to be very good angles to where you can just kind of peek in, do some damage, and then back off really easily. Just make sure you have a backup and you're planning on how to get away if the Genji comes on you, and that you're playing the cover correctly.
He doesn't go up the stairs.
Yeah, this is a pretty good bob. Good crossfire placement. Make sure that you're just not giving up high ground so easily. You're dropping off high ground with the slightest little congestion, like somebody just looks at you and you decide to drop off. And like it's really good positioning, and you can stay up there unless like the Genji's diving you and is on top of you. Nice kill. Yep, because from this high ground, we can see all of point. We can decide to go over and see them on the opposite side of the little archway here. We can see them in the room. We have, basically from this high ground, we have access to this entire second point. Now, where you were playing previously, when you're on the low ground on the right side, that only gives you line of sight on the point, and that's it. Okay, you don't have access to anybody behind the archway. You don't have any access to anybody in the room. So it just very limits your line of sight and means that you just can't shoot at anything. And when you can't shoot at anything on Ashe, that's not going to be good.
Yeah.
My business, my rules. Right on schedule.
I'm getting a bit of latency here. Wonder why.
That's only a 40 right now. With your when you're coming around those corners, like you're not moving your crosshair at all. You're keeping your crosshair on top of them. Yeah, and you're just moving back and forth. And then you're adjusting your crosshair if they're moving. You're not adjusting the crosshair for any other reason besides them moving themselves, okay? Because otherwise there's no reason. They're in this gonna be near the same spot. It just seems that every time that you go for a shot, you're adjusting away from the target, which just makes it harder to hit the second shot.
Ah.
Double kill. Double kill. I stick up for double kill. Watch out for the 1%.
Is this better? Keeping the crosshair? Am I keeping it still now?
Yeah, you're doing much better. Like than you were when you like kind of first got into the range here. Just like when you're going, you'll also notice that like maybe if you like looked at a replay or something like that, when you're just aiming at a normal person, you do a weird little like it's almost like sometimes you do like a ring around them, so you'll like kind of do kind of like a circle around the person. So you'll shoot your first time, do a little circle, and then you'll come back to the head. It's hard to describe. You'd have to like see it, but yeah, like
Yeah.
the big thing is that like every time, like in between each shot you take, a lot of the time there's just a lot of like little wiggly waggles that just don't need to be there. That just probably make it a lot harder to land shots because you're always moving your crosshair away from the person.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
I wonder if this game's gonna cancel. Oh. Oh, we got it.
Welcome to Blizzard World. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
So Sigma Zarya.
My business.
Sigma an off tank?
My rules.
Sigma is typically an off tank, yes. Though in this composition he would be played as the main tank since you don't have a main tank.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
So just keep in mind you're running very little you're technically running very little tanking in comparison to some other compositions. So just keep in mind you're playing a little bit safer. Your composition is kind of a mix between a spam brawl. Okay, you're mostly spam with Zarya and Genji being a little bit brawly, but everyone else on your team is spam. So think, okay, it's a little bit slower paced, a little bit further away, middle range characters.
Right.
But we also need to compare our comp to the enemy team comp because they might be slower and further away than even us. So they have a Reinhardt, McCree. Nice pick. Nice double pick.
Thanks. I think I see what you mean now.
Yeah, it's kind of like a swing. You go left, right, left, right.
Hmm.
Sang one. Saya one.
Okay, so we got point. We probably want to be positioning somewhere on top left right now. We just have to be, again, they have a Genji and a Doomfist, so we need to be very careful about them coming on to us. So we have to be ready with our coach gun, be ready with the dynamite, and then back up if they come on you.
Stand half.
Yep, and in a situation where we don't have coach gun up because we just use coach gun, then we have to be extra ready to just like kind of back off that high ground because we don't have the coach gun to get us out of there. So think of yourself kind of like you're a widow without a grapple. You just don't have that evac. So when you don't have that evac, you just have to be ready to drop from the high ground at a moment's notice. In that case, that's where you would like be a little bit more willing to drop off the high ground than maybe in the last game.
Guess Arya's already dead there. Could have just left that.
But there's always the chance that she gets healed up, so it's good to guarantee the kill.
Oops.
Where's our team at? Make sure that we're kind of looking around. And we swapped our tank plan up. What's our tank plan up now?
Hog and Zarya.
Yep, so we have to keep in mind that we're not going to have any frontline tanking, so we need to be playing a little bit more flanky, a little bit safer, a little bit kind of more on our own.
I think McCree's going to be better here. At least I can stun the Doom.
Yep.
I think we're a bit more brawly now as well, the Hog.
When you go low, then
Nice. Flashbang. I almost said fan
oh,
name.
get you back, get you back.
Nice.
Good kills.
It's a nice combo. I help the payload go faster.
So keep him. So when you. So unless you like need 3 people to get a payload into the point and you know that you can cap it, you never want to have more than 1 person on because you want to be taking space and up with your team. So you can take the better positioning if you're pushed up further. Whereas you're gonna have the same amount of fights anyways, whether or not you have 1 or 3.
Let's get back, get back.
Let your blood ring.
I meant to say you need healing.
So think about it like this: how many fights do you need to cap this point?
Maybe 2?
And is that number going to change if you have 3 people on point versus 1 person on point?
No.
Okay, so that means that if you keep 1 person on point, you can take the better positioning, you can be up with your team, make the team fight a bit more even. So you're going to be better off if you kind of have 5 people pushing forward it than if you only have like 2 or 3 people pushing forward. Sorry, I had that in mind, so I wasn't really focusing on these fights. Look at them now. Okay, so we're coming up on a bunch of ults.
Yeah.
With ours, keep in mind if you're communicating with your team, you can ask for the Zarya bubble. Whenever we're high nooning, we either need an insane amount of protection, or we need to have the surprise advantage. So that
I could try and go around behind.
could be a flank, or it could be like behind shields or with a bubble, anything like the. Like that, for example, we had an entire team in front of us, so that kind of worked out. Even though we didn't actually secure any kills, we survived through it. So that's kind of the equivalent of tanking, because we used our team to tank for us. Hey, good round.
Thanks. I'm tempted to choose it with like a Torb turret or something. But actually, I'll just be Ashe, the high ground. Hey, it's coming up to 11, so are you going to drop off?
Well, okay. Why don't I go through the end credit stuff then? So do you have any questions? Anything we've gone over?
I think I had the question on the crossfire, but you helped explain that. I think I need to look at the reticle swinging that I'm doing. I didn't realize that before.
Yep. Just
But
yeah, kind of just go into replay and watch kind of your crosshair and just focus on like, okay, what am I doing when I'm shooting at somebody?
yeah,
Hey, do
no,
you
it's
have anything
useful.
else?
Not at the moment. I think this has been really helpful though. So what I'll probably do is go away and practice what you've taught me a little bit, and then probably arrange